Hello, guys. Welcome to this segment of the Bobcast. We'll be discussing uh, whether or not Man U's really changed under Bruno, with Bruno and Pogba. So, Ronit, do you believe Man U have changed under with Bruno and Pogba?
Have they changed? Well, I think it depends on what time period you're referring to.
Like, well, like
Because,
I guess,
well, when people say like, as soon as Bruno Fernandes came, the club is now different, and now we've changed our path to be better. I think that's misleading. Um, because I'm not saying that Bruno Fernandes isn't playing hasn't played amazingly. I'm not saying that he isn't the biggest reason for that. For the biggest reason in the turnaround of our form. Um, although I think it's a lot more complicated than people realize. I think people always want to simplify it, and they obviously they people love Bruno. People
yeah,
love Bruno. It's like Man United fans, I've never seen like he gets man of the matches when he does not deserve them at all. I mean, he's like that type of player. Like he can do no wrong. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean, just because of what he's done, because of how I feel like it's aligned very well in how he came in and we turned our form around at the right time and everything started going positively, and it just like
always
it
back
just
to the
seemed like it has to be because of Bruno. Like, right, that's what everyone that's like that was the consensus.
yeah,
And I think to a degree that was true. To a degree, I like once Bruno came in, there's no doubt that our form went up. We beat Man City, we beat Chelsea, even though okay, I'm willing to admit that game was completely bullshit. We did not deserve to win that game. We are 100% saved our asses in that game against Chelsea. There were some questionable questionable calls in that game. But like at worst, I think it would have been a draw. I think that was probably the fair result of that game. It should have ended in a draw. And I think we won like 2-0 or something. But it should have been a draw. I think we drew Wolves. I think that was Bruno's first game or second game. So not fantastic results, but better results. And it was in a time where even decent results seemed to be groundbreaking. Just like it was at a time where not losing was just so important because we were literally on the brink of going 11th. We'd lost to Arsenal. I think we lost to Burnley at home. It was just going terribly. And then, I mean, like, I people say Vons doesn't solve anything, but then Woodward's house got raided, and all of a sudden Bruno Fernandez was bought. So, you can't always say that. That's not always true.
yeah,
Because I don't think Woodward would have went out and bought Fernandez if he didn't feel that pressure. Like we always talk about how we need to get the Glazers out of the club, how Woodward's ruining the club. But I've never seen that. I was really proud of Manchester United fans during that time, because we always just talk about how we need to protest, we need to do this and that. But that was the one time where I finally saw that we took action and we started singing at games, Glazers out. We finally started giving Woodward a reason to actually do something,
yeah,
and so that was great. And we went out and bought Bruno for a really good price, for sure. Definitely a good price. Did it help that Sporting was going bankrupt? Yeah, but it was a good price nonetheless. And his timing coincided well. But I think just as we saw last year, it's very easy to attribute a rapid change in form to a singular player, or in last year it was a manager. Um, rather than wanting to look at other factors that aren't so positive to look at, or that don't necessarily suggest that this run of form will continue in the future.
Yeah,
Um, so it's easier to just like say, you know, Bruno, we got a world class player in Bruno, and he changed the team, and now we'll always be good from now on. What's harder to admit is that maybe there's a chance that Bruno did what Ole did last year, which was he raised our spirits. We've got a new player. We've got what looks to be a really good player. Um, we didn't, we that aided with VAR in the Chelsea game, along with um, some luck. I remember we in the draw to Everton, they scored at the end to make it 2-1, and then it got called back. This was in, I think, stoppage time, and it got called back because they said somebody was shielding De Gea, which again was a very questionable call. Um, so it's harder to admit that maybe it was just um, fortune, luck, VAR, um, combined with not saying that Bruno didn't have an impact. He's certainly league above Bruno, or he's Jesse Lingard and Andres Pereira. There's no disputing that. It's a night and day. Um, but at the same time, I don't think he is as transformative and as good as people want to believe, as Manchester United fans want to believe.
yeah,
And like most things, it's somewhere in the middle. He's also not as bad as, you know, all the people who shout, "Oh, Bruno Fernandes" on Twitter. Like
yeah.
there's no denying the impact that he's had.
I think. Wait, let
Even
me.
if he's
Yeah,
like talking about the Chelsea fans and the Arsenal fans.
dude,
I don't even know how Arsenal fans can talk, but
shut the fuck
all the
up.
other people on
Uh,
Twitter who like say, he just scores penalties, and if you take away penalties, he's basically Jesse Lingard, which
uh,
is not true at all.
yeah, wait, just let me say. I think Bruno's impact is kind of similar to how Ozil's came into the like. No, let me phrase this. I'm not saying this performance wise, but like the culture and the spirits.
Yeah,
He lifted the
yeah,
spirits of
yeah,
Ozil coming into
yeah,
Arsenal. Like I remember, like when when Ozil came to Arsenal, like everyone was like, "Holy shit, we're actually gonna win the fucking Premier League now. We're gonna win,
yeah,
we're seriously gonna make a run for Champions League and stuff like that." And if you really look
yeah.
at this, like when also like at the beginning of 2013-14, like we were on top. We actually were first for like 18 out of 34, 38 uh of the games of the fixtures in 2013-14, and like we were
Mhm.
first from I believe week 5 all the way to like week 24 and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was like one
I,
of the
I, I,
most
I get what you're saying.
yeah
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I agree with that. I think the biggest impact he had was actually not his play, was that he lifted the spirits, and there was some sort of feeling of like positive change at the club. I think that was the biggest change going into lockdown, and I think lockdown helped us massively because it was sort of this like big reset in that um it helped us, like, just because it was such a long period of time without football. It just helped all the fans. It helped Woodward, especially in our PR. It helped them wash away all the memories and the bad tastes of all the losses and the poor draws that we had throughout the year. Um, and it allowed them to make a lot of spins because people will point to Bruno's two player of the months, and his goals and assist numbers, and they'll call me crazy, and they'll say, "How can you say what you're saying? Stats, like, the numbers don't lie."
yeah
Um, but the thing is, I think the reason the, like the reason he's able to put up such numbers, um, first in regards to goals, like, you can't. I don't think he's not Bruno Fernandes, but you can't ignore the fact that he scored, I think, three or four penalties.
yeah
Not all of them, which were fairly given. So he definitely benefits from being the penalty kicker. Um, and I feel like a lot like one of his goals was a deflection. Um, against I don't remember who it was, but it was the free kick. No, sorry. That it was the same game where he scored the free kick. I think that was Villa maybe. Or I know that was one. Or no, the free kick was against Brighton. I think I'm not sure, but I
Yeah.
remember he scored a free kick, which easily could have been called off. I think probably Matic was outside. If they're gonna call the I'm not arguing for VR. VR is totally bullshit and inconsistent. But if they called IU offside in the Crystal Palace game a couple days ago, then Nemanja Matic was definitely offside against in Bruno's free kick when he scored that. So that could
Yeah.
have easily been taken away. The other goal which he scored, that Pogba assisted, was a deflection. And then a lot of his assists, people love to mention how and he does like occasionally he has great bursts of play where he does like little flicks and nice through balls, but like you can't ignore the fact that he misplaces so many balls. Like there was a report this summer that said Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team didn't pursue Bruno Fernandes because he lost possession so much, and people like dismissed it. They said it wasn't true, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it might have been true because it makes sense. He loses possession a lot, and it's not like people brought up um the stats that Kevin De Bruyne loses possession a lot, Ziyech loses possession a lot, and I can't speak for Ziyech because I haven't watched him that much, but um
No,
I,
yeah.
they
Definitely
also
no.
brought up Neymar,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Let me say, the ZS thing I actually think was true. That's actually the reason why a lot of teams didn't actually go after him. I think
yeah, that is
most reasons
facts.
why Arsenal also didn't go after him.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. But when you see the stats for KDB and Neymar losing possession,
Yeah,
I think De Bruyne, like I've never seen De Bruyne misplace passes the way Bruno does.
yeah,
And I'm not trying to hate on Bruno because it's totally unrealistic to compare him to Kevin De Bruyne. Like they're on two different levels.
yeah,
And even though Manchester United fans love to say Kevin De Bruyne come outside. Bruno's better. Look at the stats. Like it's not even close. Like De Bruyne is a top 5 player in the world, I think, without dispute, right?
yeah,
And when De Bruyne loses the ball, it's I notice it's usually because like the other players aren't seeing what he's seeing. When Bruno Fernandes loses the ball, it's because he plays a stupid pass like straight to the opposition. Not always, but like yeah, a significant amount of his passes are just like really frustrating to watch.
okay,
Are
yeah,
really frustrating to watch.
I,
They're like straight into the opposition. He'll like pass it into like to grass where there's like nobody within 5 yards of the ball. And then obviously there's gonna be people that are like, you deserve Pereira and Lingard. We need someone who takes risks. I agree. We need some. I'm not saying that he's worse than Pereira Lingard. He is, like I said, it's night and day between him and Pereira and Lingard.
yeah,
But
but
I think that's more. It's
yeah,
more of an indictment to me of how bad Lingard and Pereira are than how good Bruno is to me.
yeah,
Because you can't ignore you can't just throw away all those misplaced passes just because of he has 7 assists or something
yeah.
or whatever the number
Let
is,
me,
because a lot of the assists come off of like individual brilliance. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
actually, I have I actually like if you let me like say, I actually have a lot. I actually just looked at a lot of statistics right now. So
yeah,
if you like look at him like a lot, I know a lot of people are gonna be comparing him Bruno to Kevin De Bruyne and stuff. So like
yeah,
Kevin De Bruyne averages like 3.7 key passes per game. Um, Bruno averages 2.3. And if you really look at it, like Kevin De Bruyne, if you calculate, he's at 100 11 created chances in 33 games. Bruno, however, has had 27 created chances, and yet he has 7 goals, which is uh, no 7 assists. I meant to say, which is 25% of
Yeah.
of the created chances they were converted into goals. De Bruyne only has 16%. Only 16 of his chances were converted. And
Yeah.
really look at the stark difference between like the big chances they created. You can really it's a stark difference who's a better passer really, because like big
Yeah.
chances is really
Exactly.
about like okay these are chances that these are like actually count as expected goals basically. And he's
Yeah.
run has
Exactly.
created 30 in he's played 30 started 30 games, and he's created 30 big chances. Bruno, however, has played 12 games and he's only created 3 big chances, but somehow he has 7 assists.
Yep. And it's because like you like people can say that I'm hating, but you can go look at the numbers. The our average amount of shot created actions, and goal creation actions before and after Bruno came are virtually identical. Are
Yeah,
virtually identical. It's and if you look specifically at his assists, how many of his risky balls have resulted in goals? I
yeah,
can't think of maybe maybe the backwards flick to Marshall to get the hat trick in Sheffield. That's like the only one I can think of. And that didn't even go in his assist actually. But how many of his risky passes actually resulted in goals? Usually, the ones that I can remember are him sliding it off to Mason Greenwood, or him sliding it off to Anthony Martial, or Rashford, or Pogba. Um, or you know against Chelsea it was a corner to Maguire, I think. Um, but like I you guys can go back and check, but to my knowledge, he has not made a significant through pass or an over the top pass or some special kind of pass that resulted in a Manchester United goal.
yeah,
And I can say that for Rashford, you can't say the same. Rashford has actually been quite fantastic at creating chances
yeah,
since he's come back. Like Rashford, he single-handedly created the second Martial goal. With that was like one of the sexiest runs I've ever seen. My God. Um, and there's a difference in the way that like you can see when Rashford passes the ball into a dangerous area, more often than not, it finds the target man.
yeah.
Um, and you don't see people, praising Rashford for his goal creation abilities. So at the end of the day, the stats back it up that Bruno hasn't really been creating more chances or anything. It's just that the real reason that we've been doing so much better is that Lingard and Pereira have just been so bad. You could have stuck a rock in that midfield and it would have improved our play. Um, and obviously, Bruno is a good player. He's a good player. I don't think he's an elite player, but he's a good player.
Wait,
And
what? You don't think he's elite? Not even like I'm not saying like world class. Like,
well, I guess it depends on what you're doing. Yeah, I guess it depends. He's an elite player. Like um
like I look at
he's not. I wouldn't put him at the level of Pogba. He's like a
yeah,
level below that. Yeah, but yeah whatever level you want to call that. I guess everyone has different terminology.
yeah,
Um, but to me, when after the lockdown restarted, the biggest factor in our form of results was not Bruno Fernandes. It was number one Nemanja Matic, number two Paul Pogba.
okay.
Um,
What early on.
yeah, well, I saw a stat, um, and it compared Manchester United with with Bruno and Pogba, with Bruno and not Pogba, and with Pogba and not Bruno. And it was like I don't know if it was the plus minus goal differential. Basically, the stats showed that we are significantly like it was not even close. We were significantly better in terms of chances created and net goal differential with Pogba on the pitch and Bruno off the pitch, and we are worst with Bruno on the pitch, Pogba off the pitch. And that might seem counterintuitive for a lot of people that only look at Bruno's, you know, player of the month and his stats. That might not make sense. But I think I've been telling you, Paul Pogba is being restrained by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, dude. He's being restrained in the system. Paul Pogba is being played as a holding midfielder, as a
Yeah.
deep. He wants to play as a deep lying midfielder to essentially to play deep passes at times and then to win back balls. That's how Paul Pogba has been playing. If you saw him at Crystal Palace, he had no ability to go up and roam and do damage in the 50% of the field in the top half of the field because he was so busy trying to tackle Crystal Palace players and trying to just maintain possession in our third that he didn't even get a chance to show his qualities. And the only way he does get a chance is when Matic comes on, and all of a sudden we are able to maintain possession now. And then Pogba has a chance to drift up forward because he has Matic covering for him.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason Pogba was able to play um, in a similar role because I know people are going to say he plays that role in France. But the only reason he's able to play such a role in France is because he does drift up really far up the pitch. Even though he does play behind another midfielder, he does drift up all the way up the pitch and plays as kind of a second attacking midfielder because he has Conte who covers behind him, and France is such a weird system, but kudos to them because it works, where Matuidi comes behind and almost becomes another center back or a left back. So he has two players at all times covering for him when he goes forward. At Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has kind of adopted this new philosophy where I think he's trying to copy, in a way, Manchester City by pushing Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw all the way up the field and having them play as wingbacks, pretty much.
Yeah.
And in this case, when Luke Shaw, who half the time is ahead of Marcus Rashford on the pitch, there's a stat that shows, which is true, that Luke Shaw has more touches in the opponent's box than Harry Kane since lockdown. And first of all, that shows how incredibly stupid Mourinho is, but it also shows that Luke Shaw's been getting forward a lot, and he does. He oftentimes he is ahead of Rashford, and Rashford's the one playing the through ball to Luke Shaw, who then crosses it into the box.
Yeah.
And with Luke Shaw so high up, if Pogba gets dispossessed very easily, it does happen. It does happen when you have so much of the ball, and he does get dispossessed easily, and that's his biggest weakness, I think, to me. But once he gets dispossessed, he doesn't have Luke Shaw covering for him because Luke Shaw is ahead of Marcus Rashford on the pitch, and all of a sudden, because he pushes up our center back so much, Lindelof and Maguire, all the way up the pitch, almost as midfield trying to direct play. We're all of a sudden we're caught out of position, um, and then boom, quick counter attack and they score, and that's why Man City is also vulnerable to this, but that's why they've adopted tactical fouling to counter this. So we obviously have not, and that's why we always get kind of exposed. A lot of our goals come because Pogba loses possession, our center backs get caught out of place, and then they get a quick goal. And a lot of people have been psyching off Wan-Bissaka too. I've noticed because he's not been as good defensively. Well, no shit. He's playing as a wingback. He's ahead of Mason Greenwood too. Like he's literally playing as all the way up as a right winger,
Yeah.
and you expect him to sprint all the way back throughout the game. He doesn't have a replacement. At least Luke Shaw has Brandon Williams to come in behind him. I no one plays instead of Wan-Bissaka.
Wait,
Wan-Bissaka plays almost every
wait,
game.
what about Tunzip? I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Oh yeah, Twanzebe, he's out this entire season though.
Shit.
So we haven't got to see him. Like Wan-Bissaka has played
I thought he played
um
Crystal Palace.
Twanzebe? No. Oh, we played Fausto Mensa. Because
Oh,
uh Luke Shaw and Brandon Williams were both injured, so Fosu Mensah played left back.
Oh, fuck.
Um, yeah, he hasn't played since like 2017. That was crazy. Yeah, but the point is, Ole's tried to adopt this new system. We're trying to be Manchester City when we don't nearly have the footballing intelligence. Our players don't have the footballing intelligence of Manchester City players, and we don't at the moment have the right mindset, or in my opinion, coaching to know what to do once we lose possession because it happens so often. Like sure you can blame the players for doing it, but at some point I feel like Ole has to step in and like address it. Like if it's happening again and again and again, and he's sticking with the same methodology, the same system.
He had.
I mean, he tried to slap in McTominay instead of Matic, and he just thought it would work. And I think anyone with half a footballing brain could have said that's never going to work. There's no way McTominay can do what Matic can do. Um, so Pogba, the issue is, um, in an ideal world, I don't think Bruno Fernandes would have ever been signed. Not because he's not a great player, but because I think Pogba's best position is attacking midfielder, and I think it's hard to say that because we didn't know Pogba was looking like he was going to leave. So obviously, I think getting Bruno was the right choice, the fantastic choice. But in the ideal world, I think Pogba would be playing attacking midfielder, and Ollie would have went out and bought Milinkovic-Savic behind him last transfer window, and we would have had another holding midfielder like Matic, or um, honestly Fred would have been not even that bad to play that back because he can actually pass forward unlike McTominay.
Yeah.
But I think that midfield would have had a lot better balance than what we have right now because once Matic comes off the field, Pogba is essentially useless because he has to stay all the way back. He has to try to win balls, which he's not exactly great at. I mean, he's not a ball-winning midfielder.
Yeah.
I mean, his best days as a midfielder has come as an attacking midfielder when he played like that last year under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and at Juventus. So I don't know. You're putting a hexagonal peg in a round hole. You can jam it in, but at the end of the day, it'll never fit like you want it to.
Yeah.
It'll never be as good as if you just put it in its own hole, perfectly shaped hole. So that's why I think you need, like I was saying, you need to go get Partey, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have Pogba playing in there than Fred or McTominay. So, um,
Damn.
I think he's being restrained. Um, it is what it is.
I think if you had a good, like, if you actually had like somebody, a quality manager, like an accomplished, like accomplished, attack-minded, free
Yeah.
flow manager who plays that, like somebody like Arteta, somebody that's like Pep Guardiola-esque.
I mean, I
I
can't
feel
I
like,
can't say like always not because like I at the very least I think he's trying. I have to give him credit for that. Like at least I can't say the same about Mourinho
what do you,
because Mourinho didn't even try to play attacking football. At least Ole is at least he's trying.
okay,
So
well, we'll just be honest. Like, always just like, anybody that like with those players at their disposal would play attacking football. Anybody in the right mind would. Like, it's not really like an
not
excuse.
Mourinho. Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, anyone in the right mind, I agree. Which is
I was
not
saying
Mourinho.
fucking Simeone or Mourinho, you
Yeah.
wouldn't be playing uh like you wouldn't try to play Pogba as a fucking center back or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't know. So to answer your question finally, I guess, um, I don't think there has been any sort of tactical change in Manchester United. I don't think there's any um drastic any change like that. I think what did happen is that we finally got a healthy Pogba back. We finally got a healthy Rashford back, and we got rid of Pereira and Lingard. So
But doesn't you,
obviously, once all those three factors combine, you're gonna start seeing their results.
yeah,
Like that's just like that's logic, you
since
know.
you're
But
criticizing, oh yeah, but since
like
you're
if you look at our game against Crystal Palace at the beginning of the season, we played better that game. Even though we lost that game 2-1. In my eyes, we played better that game. We created more chances. We should have scored more goals. We looked like the easily the most dominant team, whereas um, whereas 2 days ago I felt like we were on the back foot for most of the game, and we looked totally out of place. So I don't think if the tactics have changed, I haven't seen it. What I will say is that we do have a lot more quality. We have more quality players on the field. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out when you put more quality on the field, you get better results.
yeah,
And I think that's what's happened.
yeah. But just wondering, who do you think, since you're criticizing the tactics, you're heavily criticizing them, who do you think would be the right man to balance, to replace, not only replace Ollie, but to balance out this team and to get this team uh, back back to the old standard, Man U standard, challenging for titles, challenging in Europe.
Oh, ain't that the question we all want to know?
But that's, you know what?
But okay,
That's a good
here's the thing
question.
though. Here's the thing. Here's
Wait,
the
no,
thing. Here's the thing.
pause, 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 pause. This is a good question for another time.
Yeah, yeah, it
Wait,
is.
wait,
But
actually, no.
but I just want to say this. I just want to say this though. I don't want to criticize all these tactics because I don't think they're perfect. Um, I think there's a lot of things I wish would change about them, and there are also a lot of things that I like. So I'm a little bit indifferent when it comes to him. I'm definitely not Ole out, and I'm definitely
Wait,
not
what?
Ole as at the wheel.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, he's miles better than we were under Mourinho. Because
Wait,
um,
you hate Marie.
whether it's his doing or not, we have younger players. We have we look like a more cohesive team off the pitch. Again, I don't know how much he's contributed to that, but it looks like the players are a lot happier. Um, and it looks like he's trying to play attacking football. Um, so I think, uh, like there's no guarantee that you if you bring Poch in that we automatically start doing better, you know. And it's not like, again, this could easily all change if we don't make Champions League and we don't get Sancho. But at the moment, there's not like there's no big red flag that says Ole needs to leave right now.
Yeah,
Um, at least not to me. But yeah,
true.
thanks for listening, guys. That was our little rant and explanation on why I think Manchester United haven't really changed, but also maybe why it doesn't really matter. So I hope you'll join us next time, and thanks for tuning in.